Welcome back, Rare Coin Insider. Imagine holding a tiny, seemingly insignificant coin in your hand, something you might normally ignore or even toss aside without a second thought. Yet, hidden within that small piece of copper-coated metal lies a story that stretches across centuries of American history, economics, craftsmanship, and even human psychology. Because the 1-cent USA 1989 coin, often referred to simply as the 1989 Lincoln penny, is far more than just loose change. It is a symbol of continuity, a piece of everyday history that has traveled through millions of hands while silently witnessing the evolution of a nation and the shifting perception of value itself. And when people hear claims that such a coin could be worth an astonishing $109 million, it immediately sparks curiosity, disbelief, and fascination all at once, pushing us to dig deeper into what makes a coin like this potentially valuable, and why collectors around the world dedicate their lives to studying such details. The 1989 penny belongs to the long-running Lincoln cent series, which first began in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of Abraham Lincoln, marking the first time a real historical figure appeared on a regular circulating United States coin, a decision that was both controversial and groundbreaking at the time, yet ultimately became one of the most iconic and enduring designs in American coinage history. And by 1989, this design had already become deeply familiar to generations of Americans. Featuring the recognizable portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the obverse side, a profile that carries a sense of dignity, simplicity, and quiet strength, originally sculpted by Victor David Brenner, whose initials VDB can be found subtly placed on the coin, a small detail that itself has sparked collector interest over the decades. Turning the coin over, the reverse side of the 1989 penny still features the classic Lincoln Memorial design, which had been introduced in 1959 to mark the 150th anniversary of Lincoln's birth, replacing the earlier wheat ears design and bringing a more modern architectural representation to the coin. And if you look closely enough, you can even see a tiny depiction of the Lincoln statue inside the memorial, an incredibly intricate detail considering the coin's small size, showcasing the remarkable skill of the engravers and the precision of minting technology at the time. And this combination of portrait and monument creates a symbolic connection between the man and his legacy, something that resonates deeply with collectors and historians alike. In terms of physical characteristics, the 1989 1-cent coin has a weight of 2.5 grams, which is important because earlier pennies, before 1982, were made mostly of copper and weighed 3.11 grams, but due to rising copper prices, the composition was changed to a zinc core with a thin copper plating, making the coin lighter and more cost-effective to produce. And this shift in material is crucial when evaluating coins, because composition changes can sometimes lead to rare transitional errors, which are among the most valuable types of coins in the collector market. And while most 1989 pennies follow the standard composition, the possibility of anomalies always keeps collectors searching. The coin also features mint marks that indicate where it was produced, typically found just below the date on the obverse side, with common mint marks including D for Denver and S for San Francisco, while coins minted in Philadelphia during that time usually did not carry a mint mark, and each mint has its own production characteristics, sometimes resulting in subtle variations in strike quality, luster, and even minor design differences, which can significantly influence a coin's desirability and market value among collectors who pay close attention to such details. Now, when we talk about rarity, it's important to understand that the 1989 penny was produced in massive quantities, with billions of coins minted across different facilities, meaning that in general circulation, this coin is extremely common and typically holds only its face value. However, the story changes dramatically when we introduce the concept of minting errors, condition, and unique variations, because it is within these categories that ordinary coins transform into extraordinary treasures, And collectors are always on the lookout for errors such as double dies, off-center strikes, wrong planchets, or even coins with unusual metal compositions, all of which can elevate the value of a simple penny into the realm of thousands or even millions of dollars. The idea of a 1989 penny being worth $109 million may sound unbelievable, and realistically, such a value would only apply to an extraordinarily rare and unique specimen, possibly a one-of-a-kind error or a coin with a historical anomaly that sets it apart from every other example, because in the world of numismatics, rarity combined with demand is what drives value to extreme levels. And while most 1989 pennies are not worth more than a few cents, the possibility that one could be extraordinarily rare creates a sense of excitement and mystery that fuels the passion of collectors and treasure hunters alike, encouraging people to check their spare change and look more closely at what they might otherwise overlook. Collectors also place a huge emphasis on condition, often graded on a scale from poor to mint state, with coins in pristine, uncirculated condition commanding significantly higher prices, especially if they retain their original luster and show no signs of wear, and professional grading services play a major role in this process, providing authentication and standardized grading that helps establish trust in the marketplace. As we continue to explore the fascinating world of the 1989 1-cent coin, it becomes clear that its true value lies not just in its material or face value, but in the stories it carries, the history it represents, and the possibilities it holds within the intricate world of coin collecting, where even the smallest object can become a gateway to immense wealth and historical discovery. And this is only the beginning of understanding why such a simple coin can capture so much attention and intrigue across the globe. As we go deeper into the story of the 1989 Lincoln penny, the real intrigue begins to unfold when we explore the hidden world of minting errors and microscopic variations, because this is where ordinary coins suddenly become the center of intense attention, and where collectors shift from casual observers into meticulous investigators, examining every tiny detail under magnification, searching for the kinds of imperfections that the average person would never notice, yet those very imperfections can transform a coin into something extraordinarily valuable, sometimes even priceless depending on its uniqueness and demand within the collector community. One of the most sought-after types of errors is known as a double die, a phenomenon that occurs during the minting process when the coin's design is accidentally stamped more than once in slightly different alignments, resulting in visible doubling of letters, numbers, or design elements, and on a 1989 penny, this could mean subtle doubling in the date, the word liberty, or even the phrase, "In God we trust." And while some doubling can be extremely faint, strong and clearly visible double die errors are highly prized, often selling for hundreds or thousands of dollars depending on their clarity and condition, and in extremely rare cases where the doubling is dramatic and well preserved, the value can climb even higher, attracting serious collectors willing to pay significant sums. Another fascinating category involves off-center strikes, where the coin is not perfectly aligned during the minting process, causing part of the design to be missing or shifted to one side. And while at first glance this might seem like damage, it is actually a legitimate mint error, and the more off-center the strike is, while still retaining the visible date, the more desirable it becomes, because it represents a clear and undeniable deviation from the standard production process, something that collectors find both rare and visually striking. There are also cases of wrong planchet errors, where a coin is struck on a blank intended for a different denomination or even a different metal composition, and while such occurrences are extremely rare, they are among the most valuable types of errors in numismatics, because they represent a fundamental mistake in the minting process. And if a 1989 penny were ever discovered struck on an unusual metal or incorrect planchet, it could easily become one of the most valuable coins of its kind, potentially reaching extraordinary price levels depending on its uniqueness and verification. Beyond errors, Another crucial factor that drives value is the coin's condition, often described using terms like circulated or uncirculated, with uncirculated coins being those that have never been used in everyday transactions and therefore retain their original mint luster, sharp details, and clean surfaces. And within this category, coins are further graded on a scale that ranges up to MS70, which represents a perfect coin with no visible imperfections even under magnification, and achieving such a grade is incredibly rare, especially for coins that were produced in large quantities, like the 1989 penny, making high-grade examples particularly desirable among collectors who are willing to pay premium prices for perfection. The role of professional grading services cannot be overlooked here, because organizations like the Professional Coin Grading Service and the Numismatic Guarantee Company have established standardized grading systems that help determine a coin's authenticity and condition, providing collectors with confidence when buying or selling coins. And a 1989 penny that has been certified and graded at a high level by one of these services can command significantly higher prices than an uncertified coin, simply because of the trust and credibility associated with the grading process. Now, when discussing the idea of a 1989 penny being worth $109 million, it's important to approach this claim with a critical mindset, because while the coin itself is not inherently worth such an astronomical amount in its standard form, the world of rare coins has seen extraordinary sales in the past, where unique pieces with historical significance, extreme rarity, and verified authenticity have sold for tens of millions of dollars. And in such cases, the value is not just about the coin itself, but about its story, its uniqueness, and the intense demand among elite collectors who are willing to compete for ownership of something truly one of a kind. This brings us to the psychology of collecting, which plays a huge role in determining the value of coins, because collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying history, rarity, and the thrill of ownership. And when a coin becomes known as unique or exceptionally rare, its perceived value can increase dramatically, sometimes far beyond its intrinsic worth, driven by the desire of collectors to own something that no one else can have. And this is where the possibility of extreme valuations, even reaching into the millions, begins to make sense within the context of high-end numismatics. Another interesting aspect of the 1989 penny is its place within the broader timeline of U.S. coinage, because by this point, the Lincoln cent had already undergone significant changes in composition, design, and production methods, reflecting shifts in economic conditions and technological advancements. And studying these changes provides valuable insight into the evolution of currency and the challenges faced by the U.S. Mint in balancing cost, durability, and public acceptance, all of which contribute to the historical significance of even the most common coins. Collectors also pay attention to subtle variations between coins produced at different mints, such as differences in strike quality, luster, and even minor design details. And while these variations may seem insignificant to the untrained eye, they can have a meaningful impact on a coin's desirability and value, especially when combined with high-grade condition or rare errors, creating unique combinations that stand out in the marketplace. As the story of the 1989 1-cent coin continues to unfold, it becomes clear that its true significance lies not in its face value, but in the complex interplay of history, craftsmanship, rarity, and human fascination. And with every detail we uncover, we move closer to understanding how something so small can carry such immense potential, both as a piece of history and as a possible gateway to extraordinary value, setting the stage for even deeper exploration into its market presence, collector demand, and the myths and realities surrounding its most extreme valuations. As we move further into the world surrounding the 1989 Lincoln penny, the conversation naturally shifts toward the real marketplace, where coins are not just studied or admired but actively bought, sold, auctioned, and sometimes fiercely competed over. And this is where reality meets speculation, because while billions of these pennies were produced and most remain extremely common, the market behaves very differently when even the slightest hint of rarity or uniqueness enters the picture, turning what is normally loose change into an object of serious financial interest, and sometimes even obsession among dedicated collectors. In everyday circulation, a 1989 penny typically holds only its face value, or perhaps a few cents more if it is in relatively good condition, and this is because the supply is overwhelmingly large, meaning there is no shortage of available coins for collectors or casual holders. However, once we begin to consider coins that are in exceptional condition, particularly those graded at MS65, MS66, or higher, the situation changes dramatically, because high-grade coins are far less common than their circulated counterparts, and collectors who aim to build complete sets often seek the best possible examples, creating demand that pushes prices upward, sometimes into the hundreds or even thousands of dollars for a single coin that stands out in terms of preservation and visual appeal. The concept of red pennies also plays a major role in valuation, referring to coins that retain their original bright copper color without significant oxidation or discoloration, and these coins are especially prized because copper tends to darken over time, meaning that maintaining that original red luster for decades is quite rare, particularly for coins that were not carefully stored from the moment they were minted. And when a 1989 penny is found in a full red state with a high mint grade, it becomes far more desirable than a typical brown or mixed color example, further increasing its market value. Auction houses and online marketplaces have played a huge role in shaping the modern coin market, allowing collectors from around the world to participate in buying and selling coins with unprecedented ease, and platforms like eBay, Heritage Auctions, and others regularly feature listings for Lincoln cents, including 1989 pennies, where prices can vary widely depending on condition, grading, and any unique characteristics. And while most sales are relatively modest, every so often, a standout coin appears that captures attention and achieves a significantly higher price than expected, reinforcing the idea that value in numismatics is highly dependent on specific attributes rather than general assumptions. Now, addressing the claim of a 1989 penny being worth $109 million requires a careful and honest perspective, because while such a figure captures attention and drives curiosity, there is currently no widely verified public record of a standard 1989 Lincoln penny selling for anything close to that amount, and in fact, even the most valuable coins in the world, such as extremely rare historic pieces, typically reach into the tens of millions rather than hundreds of millions, meaning that such a valuation would likely require an unprecedented level of rarity, historical significance, and collector demand combined into a single, unique specimen that stands completely apart from all known examples. However, the existence of such claims is not entirely without meaning, because they highlight an important truth about the world of collectibles, which is that value is not fixed. It is created through a combination of rarity, demand, narrative, and perception, and if a coin were ever discovered that possessed a truly unique error or historical anomaly, something that no other coin in existence could match, then theoretically, its value could reach extraordinary levels, especially if multiple high net worth collectors were determined to acquire it, driving competitive bidding to extreme heights. Collectors often rely on population reports published by grading services, which indicate how many coins of a particular type have been graded at each level, and for the 1989 penny, these reports show that while many coins exist, only a small fraction achieve the highest grades, making those top-tier examples significantly more valuable due to their scarcity. And this data-driven approach allows collectors to make informed decisions about which coins are worth pursuing and how much they might reasonably expect to pay or receive in the market. Another fascinating aspect is the role of coin rolls and unopened mint sets, which sometimes contain coins that have remained untouched since their production, offering the possibility of discovering high-grade or even rare error coins that have never been circulated, and many collectors purchase rolls of pennies specifically for the purpose of searching through them, a process known as coin roll hunting, which combines the excitement of treasure hunting with the discipline of careful examination, and while most searches yield common coins, the occasional discovery of something unusual keeps collectors engaged and hopeful. The 1989 penny also exists within a broader cultural context, representing a time period just before the digital age transformed how people interact with money, and for many, it serves as a nostalgic reminder of a simpler era when cash transactions were the norm and coins played a more visible role in daily life, and this emotional connection can sometimes enhance a coin's appeal, particularly among collectors, who value not just the rarity, but also the memories and associations tied to a specific period in history. As we continue exploring, it becomes increasingly clear that the true power of the 1989 one-cent coin lies in its dual nature. On one hand, it is one of the most common and overlooked pieces of currency, and on the other, it holds the potential, under the right circumstances, to become something extraordinary, a rare artifact that captures the imagination and commands significant value. And it is this contrast between the ordinary and the extraordinary that makes the world of coin collecting so endlessly fascinating, drawing people into a pursuit where even the smallest detail can change everything, and where the next discovery could be just one coin away. And now, as we reach the final stretch of this journey into the world of the 1989 Lincoln penny, everything begins to come together in a way that transforms how we look at something so small, because by now it is clear that this coin is not just a piece of currency. It is a layered story made of history, craftsmanship, chance, and human curiosity. And perhaps the most fascinating part of all is that its true potential is not always visible at first glance. It hides in the tiniest details, in the subtle differences that only a trained eye or a patient collector might notice, reminding us that value is often concealed beneath the surface of the ordinary. When collectors evaluate a coin like the 1989 penny, they are not simply asking what it is worth today, they are asking what it could become tomorrow, because the market for rare coins is constantly evolving, shaped by new discoveries, shifting collector interests, and the ongoing documentation of previously unknown varieties and errors. And every time a new anomaly is found, it adds another layer to the story, another possibility that keeps the search alive. And this is why even decades after its release, the 1989 penny continues to attract attention, continuing to be studied, collected, and occasionally rediscovered in ways that surprise even experienced numismatists. There is also a deeper lesson hidden within all of this, something that goes beyond coins and collecting, because the idea that a single penny, something most people would ignore, could potentially hold extraordinary value challenges our perception of worth itself. It forces us to reconsider how we define importance, how we overlook details, and how easily we dismiss things that might actually be significant. And in a way, the 1989 penny becomes a metaphor for opportunity, a reminder that sometimes the greatest value lies in what others fail to notice. The claim of a $109 million valuation, whether myth, exaggeration, or theoretical possibility, plays an important role in this narrative, because it sparks imagination, it creates excitement, and it draws people into a world they might otherwise never explore. And while the reality is that most 1989 pennies will never reach such heights, the idea itself keeps the dream alive. It keeps people checking their coins, learning about mint marks, studying errors, and engaging with history in a hands-on way, and that engagement is what truly sustains the hobby and keeps it thriving across generations. For serious collectors, the pursuit is not just about finding a valuable coin, it is about building knowledge, understanding patterns, and developing an eye for detail that can distinguish the ordinary from the exceptional, and this process takes time, patience, and dedication, often involving hours of research, careful examination, and sometimes even a bit of luck, because in the end, not every rare coin is discovered through expertise alone. Sometimes it is simply found by someone who decided to look a little closer than everyone else. And then, there is the market itself, unpredictable, dynamic, and driven by human behavior as much as by tangible factors, where a coin's value can rise or fall depending on demand, trends, and the stories that surround it. And this is why two coins that appear nearly identical can have vastly different values, because one might carry a unique characteristic, a rare grade, or a documented history that sets it apart, turning it into something far more than just metal, turning it into a sought-after piece of history. Best ending. So the next time you come across a simple 1-cent coin from 1989, instead of dismissing it as spare change, pause for a moment and look at it closely, because within that small, copper-coated surface lies more than just a monetary value. It carries decades of history, the legacy of Abraham Lincoln, the precision of minting technology, and the endless possibilities of discovery. And while the chances of holding a coin worth millions may be incredibly slim, the act of looking, of questioning, and of exploring is what makes the journey worthwhile, because sometimes it is not about finding a fortune, it is about realizing that even the smallest in our lives can hold stories, meaning, and potential far greater than we ever imagined. And in that realization, the humble 1989 penny becomes something truly extraordinary, not because of what it is worth, but because of what it represents.